El Gringo,
y la Mexicana.
and together we are
Keto Delicious Kitchens. Bienvenidos.
Yep, welcome. The weather has started to cool down here in Phoenix, and that can mean only one thing. It's time to fire up the barbacoa pit.
Sí, en este episodio vamos a hacer barbacoa en el hoyo.
Yep, and if we're gonna fire up the barbacoa pit, that means only one thing. It is lamb barbacoa day. Yay!
Sí, a Mike le encanta el cordero, así es que vamos a hacer esta carnita con su salsita y la vamos a poner en el hoyo por más o menos como 5 horas y sale exquisita.
Yep, this is gonna be slow cooked lamb barbacoa with a special rub, all super keto, delicious as an entree on its own or as the most delicious filling for tamales or tacos.
Sí, usualmente o sea, nos las comemos así en taquitos o en tamales, hacemos la carnita, pero déjame les digo que Mike le encanta el caldo.
Exactly. So the bonus round in this video is the drippings from the lamb is going to fall into the bottom of the steamer, and we're going to make the most delicious consomme from the fat of the lamb and the water and the seasoning that's on the meat. It's going to be delicious.
Sí, este caldito, dice Mike, le encanta porque se levanta muertos. El caldo sale rico con la grasita del cordero, ¿no? Y todas las especies. No, está de chuparse a los dedos, en serio.
Oh yeah, finger licking good. All right, well let's stop gabbing and let's start lamb barbacoaing. ¡Vámonos! Okay, step one is to make sure you have the steam pot. So the steam pot has got a rack on the inside of it that sits on a ring, and you're going to put the lamb on top of that, and you're going to have the water underneath it. And the drippings from the lamb are going to go into that water while the lamb is roasting, and the seasoning of the lamb, the rub, all of that is going to be mixed underneath, and it's going to make the most delicious consomme you've ever had in addition to a wonderful lamb.
Bueno, y ya estamos listos para hacer esta receta y solo ocupa 5 artículos. La pierna de cordero, la salsa para frotar la carne, la olla vaporera, agua y las especies para hacer el caldo.
Okay, step one is to get the pit going. We're going to burn a lot of wood in order to have a nice deep bed of coals, because that bed of coals is going to be where the heat comes from to slow roast this lamb.
Bueno, y ahora vamos a preparar ya el hoyo con la leña o el foso o el pozo con leña, como usted le diga, pero hay que preparar la leña para que esté bien caliente.
Okay, so we got the fire going, so now let's make the rub. Here's the recipe. Either take a screen capture here or go to our website.
So aquí están los ingredientes para hacer la salsa para frotar la carne. Así es que tómale una foto para que vaya y compre los ingredientes.
So take all of those ingredients, add the water, mix it up, and there's your rub.
Bueno, y súper sencilla esta receta, como cualquier salsa con chile. Mezcle todos los ingredientes.
All right, so now that you've got that rub or paste, you're going to brush that on the leg of lamb. We're doing 2 legs of lamb in the steam pot, so you're going to brush that on all sides of the leg of lamb and then wrap it in aluminum foil so that it can just set a while and just soak up the flavor.
Bueno, aquí están las piernitas y la vamos a frotar con la salsa. Acuérdese de cubrirla para que ya sea con plástico o aluminio para que el marinado se impregne en la carne.
Okay, so Lupita and I debate about this. I leave the net on in order to hold the lamb together so it's not just all over the top of the rack.
No. Se supone que en México, bueno, mis papás le quitaban la liga y le ponían todo el marinado en toda la carne y la liga nunca se usaba en México, en fin.
So the choice is yours.
Sí.
To burn this much wood for just 2 legs of lamb doesn't make sense. So we're going to roast a couple of pork shoulders for some friends on top of the steamer so that we can make good use of the heat that's in there.
Bueno, y aprovechando el hoyo con la leña, unos amigos trajeron asado de paleta de cerdo que también van a cocinar aprovechando la leña que tenemos. Así es que vivan los amigos.
Okay, a consomme, as I understand it, is typically just the broth. So you could keep it super simple and just have the drippings of the meats mixed with the seasoning of the rub in the water, and that's it. Or you can add some vegetables, whatever you want to add. We're adding rutabaga onion and some bay leaves and celery.
Y ahora para hacer el caldo, yo le pongo cebolla, le pongo el consomé de pollo, una cucharita, apio, ajo y también el nabo sueco, que es muy parecido a la papa, y hoja de laurel. Si usted le quiere poner cualquier otra cosa, póngale.
So next is to add water to the steam pot. You're going to have enough water to be just underneath the rack. You don't want the water to end up above and be boiling the meats in water, but basically just keep the water underneath the rack.
Ok, pues entonces agregue el agua. Acuérdese que el agua tiene que estar donde está la línea del agua, como dice la olla vaporera. No le ponga más agua porque no quiere hervir la carne, ¿verdad?
Okay, so if you're going to include vegetables in this, drop those in. Make sure the water isn't above the rack. Then put the rack in place and then set the lamb on top. Take it out of the foil.
Bueno, y ya estamos listos para colocar la carne. Así que quítele el papel aluminio, quítele el plástico y colóquenlo en la parrilla.
So you want to make sure that the steam doesn't escape the pot while it's in the ground. So what I do is I add a layer of foil to seal the top and then press the lid into place. That helps make sure that the moisture stays inside with the meat and doesn't just boil off.
Ahora es tiempo de sellar la olla vaporera para que no se escape mucho el vapor, ¿no? O el agua.
Okay, we've built up a nice bed of coals. We just need to wait for the flame to die out.
Y acuérdese de poner la olla vaporera cuando solo haya carbón encendido, que quiere decir que no haya lumbre, o sea que la leña se haya consumido y tengamos solamente carbón.
Exactly, and so that's what we have now is a nice bed of coals. So let's put the rack on and then let's set the pot in place. The way that this pit was designed was to have a bed of coal about 8 inches, 9 inches deep underneath the rack. And so that's about what we've got. We've got about 1.5 inches of clearance between the top of the coals and the underside of the rack.
Bueno, y les tengo que recordar, porque Mike me está diciendo que les tengo que recordar que tienen que tener como 8 pulgadas de carbón encendido. Acuérdense.
Gracias. Okay, so now we're going to set the pot down in the hole and then going to put those 2 pork shoulders on top. And since those are the biggest pieces of meat and I want to make sure that they're cooked, I'm putting a meat thermometer in one of them and then also another thermocouple to check the temperature inside the pit, just to kind of monitor how the meat is doing versus the inside temperature of the pit.
Ok, ahora estamos utilizando 2 termómetros, uno para la carne y uno para el horno.
Okay, so now we're going to cook in the tradition of barbacoa. So we're going to put the lid on top, then put a couple of layers of burlap on top of that, and then put the soil on top of that. That soil is going to seal the lid and all the gaps that might be between the lid and the pit. We do not want heat to get out. So this soil is meant to act as a blanket to keep the heat inside the pit, because if we lose the heat, you're doomed.
Y ahora es tiempo de cubrir el hoyo con... Nosotros le ponemos una cobija, ¿no? O cualquier tela o fabricado que no se queme. Y póngale el lodo y acuérdese que no debe de escaparse el vapor porque esto se supone que es un horno, ¿no? Así es que tápelo muy bien y listo.
So after you seal it, you're going to be at about 500 degrees inside the oven, and you're just going to let the meat cook until it comes up to the right temperature, which for these pork shoulders is going to be on the order of 190 degrees. So that's going to take 4 or 5 hours.
Acuérdese que la carne está lista cuando baja a 190 grados. Más o menos se toma como unas 5 horas esto, que es bien lento, el horno caliente y es lento y sale riquísima la carne.
Okay, es la hora de la verdad. We're going to take the soil off now, and we're going to use the burlap to help get the soil off. That's why I use the burlap, to help get the soil off of the lid without the soil getting underneath the lid.
Dice Mike, ahora es tiempo de la verdad. Quite la cobija con el lodo para sacar la carne.
Okay, so there's the lamb on top, and it smells wonderful. And as much as I love lamb, and that's probably my most favorite meat, the treasure is underneath, and that is the soup or the consomme.
Como dice el Mike, la sopa salió deliciosa.
And so you just cannot believe how tasty this soup is. The fat of the lamb, along with the seasoning that's in that paste or rub that's on the meat, and just having that kind of churn for 4 or 5 hours, it is just so good. It's pure energy too, because you've got so much fat in there, and it's just so tasty.
Bueno, pues, ¿qué les voy a decir? Este consomé salió delicioso con la grasita y todas las especies. No, es que no tengo palabras. Riquísimo.
Okay, so if you haven't figured it out, we love the consomme, but let's not forget the lamb. You can slice it up like we're showing here, serve it with some salad, or even better, put it in some tamales.
Yum, yum, yum. Salió riquísimo también la carne, pero pues nos gusta mucho el caldito. Mike.
Hola, Lupita.
A ver, ¿qué estás comiendo?
Estoy comiendo sopita de
¿Cordero?
De cordero.
Sí. Y es el sopita de cordero, así es.
Oh my gosh, this is
Está
so
riquísimo.
good.
¿Sí?
It's like pure energy.
Okay, fantastic.
Chile.
You love it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you guys like it?
Yum.
Okay, very good. Okay, bye.
Gracias.
Ciao.
Bye bye.
Okay, we hope you enjoyed the epic lamb barbacoa and consomme.
Y esperamos que les haya gustado mucho, así que apóyanos y suscríbase al canal y haga like y suscríbase.
Yep, like, share, and subscribe.
Adiós.